Hello everyone, my name is David Seonbaek. I'm a lead industry and service officer at the APO. Today I had this great honor to invite Viel, President and CEO of Quebec International Canada. Carl, thank you very much for being with us today. Can you introduce yourself a little bit?
Yes, well, I don't know if I should say good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, but first of all, David, thank you very much for the invite. As you mentioned, I'm Viel, President and CEO of Quebec International. Just to give you a bit of my background, so I have a degree in economics and also studied at MIT in entrepreneurship and also made a governance degree. So that's my background in terms of education. I also spent over 20 some years in the private sector. And then I joined a non-for-profit organization and I took over a bit over 10 years ago, the Quebec City Economic Development Agency.
Thank you very much for the introduction. Carl, can you introduce Quebec International and its activities a little bit?
First of all, I'd like once again to thank and welcome all of the members of the 21 members of APO to be with us today. So Quebec International is a non-for-profit economic development agency. We have different mandates and I'm going to present them to you, but they're not presented in any specific order, just as they come. So number one, it's the promotion of the region like any other city region around the world. Our first objective is to focus on doing the promotion of our region and also presenting economic data of the performance of the region. The second key mandate is attraction of foreign direct investment, which could be divided in three pillars. The first one is what we call green fields. So companies from around the world that want to invest in our city region and that are not already present. So that's what we call greenfield. The second is reinvestment from foreign companies that already have some subsidiaries in the region. And the third one that we have expanded to over the last few years is attracting SME/startup from around the world. The third one is what we call attraction of foreign students and foreign workers. The current situation of our region is very performing extremely well. So we have a very low unemployment rate of under 5%. So about 10 years ago, we have decided that we would work with different companies to attract foreign workers to come and live in the region and also for students to come to study in the region and actually trying to keep them afterwards to stay in the region and work for our companies. The fourth mandate is what we call entrepreneurship. So everything that has to do with startups, trying to help them. So we manage incubators, helping our people that have great ideas from different ages to start their own company. The fifth one is exports. So helping our companies to export their goods, their service, and their products around the world. The sixth one is what we call supporting clusters. So every cities, region, countries around the world has different clusters, different fields and sectors that they feel that they can compete locally, internationally, or nationally. So we have a few clusters that we support. And over the last 2 years, we have added some new mandates. The first one is what we call 4.0. So helping our companies to transform themselves, increase their productivity, and making sure that they're focusing on the new 4.0 and also 5G. So we added a team that actually is working with our local companies to increase their productivity, ensure that they're bringing in the new technology into their working environment.
So can you tell me the COVID-19 situation in Quebec and Canada overall?
Like I'm going to say like all of the other countries around the world, we were faced with the COVID situation. We actually had 3 different phases. So the first wave, the second wave, and the third wave. So we ended at the third wave. So now the businesses, the restaurants, and hotels are reopening. And Canada is actually now into completing the second wave of vaccination. So we started with the 3 major vaccines, so the AstraZeneca, the Pfizer, and the Moderna. And now we're reaching up close to 70%, over 70% of our population that's been vaccinated with the first. And we're still achieving very high second dose in terms of percentage of the total population that actually has been vaccinated. The other element that's actually been put, or it actually is being introduced, it's the vaccine passport. Canada is still, their borders are still closed for foreign people to come. So, but other countries, as you know, have reopened their borders. So we're in the process of implementing a new, I'm going to say, vaccine passport to allow people to come into the country. So for myself, as of today, if I was to visit a foreign country, when I come back, I just need to get a test 27 to 72 hours prior to coming back. And if my test is negative, I can come back in and I don't have to do a quarantine since I have my 2 vaccines. The other elements, actually, as with many other countries around the world, Canada has introduced stimulus package over the last 15 months from mainly supporting 3 things. Number one, the sectors that were hardly hit with the COVID situations, as you know, the restaurants, the hotel, the businesses, what we call proximity businesses, so clothing stores, every type of businesses that were located in mall, and some of the key commercial areas or districts were hardly hit. The second key program that the government introduced was also an incentive to ensure that companies can continue to pay their employees through mainly the first and second wave. So Canada introduced a measure to support companies and ensure that they would keep their employees through the difficulties. And the third key bucket was actually, if I may say, was a program to support the lease and rent of companies across the country. So those were the 3 key measures. And after that, the Canadian government has put together a committee to look at the stimulus package to ensure that the country would actually come out faster of the COVID situation. And if I look at the results so far, we've actually been doing extremely well in terms of the stimulus package that has been introduced and all of the different measures that have been put in place, and those are going to be introduced in the near future. And once again, like other countries, Canada has decided to focus on a few sectors that are pillars of our economy, and sectors that will be pillars of a new area, because the way that we're doing business in the past is going to change with following the COVID situation. And another key element is finding the right balance between what I would call a hybrid mode of working. Everyone was in an office setting, and now we're actually going to be working in more of an hybrid role or world, where actually some of our employees are going to come in the office maybe 1, 2, 3 days a week, and the other ones are going to be working from home. So we're going to be working more of an hybrid working environment. So a lot of the companies have to rethink how they're going to address this new situation, this new model, and how they're rethinking their offices, their premises to accommodate their employees. They're not going to be working full time in the office, and now we're setting up for people to be able to work remotely.
Hey, Carl, maybe some of the viewers are not familiar with Quebec itself. Can you introduce a little bit about the Quebec City itself?
Yes, so first of all, Quebec City is a francophone city, a francophone region. Quebec as a whole is the only French-speaking region or province, I should say, in the country. Canada has 10 provinces, and Quebec is the only one that has French as its official language. One other province, New Brunswick, has 2 official languages, French and English, and the rest of the country has English as their language. In terms of the region, we're a population of close to 1 million population, a very highly educated region with a few different clusters. One of the places that I would recommend your viewers to, whenever we're able to revisit, people should come to visit Quebec City. Quebec was actually well known, especially in Korea, with some movie series that were actually produced in Quebec City with the pictures of the Chateau Frontenac. The Chateau Frontenac is an icon landscape, what actually is the hotel, which is the most taking in pictures in the world. It's a renowned hotel that is located right on the St. Lawrence River. Quebec is the oldest city in the country, which was founded in 1608, which is very not that old for people from Asia, but for people in North America, it's a very old city, which has offered a lot. So Quebec was built on 2 or 3 different industry. First of all, the shipping yard industry. The second, the wood industry. And the one that took over afterwards was also the tourism sector. Quebec is also the national capital of the province of Quebec. And over the years, the city has been able to transform itself into new technology. So over 30 years ago, a group of people, business people actually came together and decided to focus on different pillars to build the future of the region. So the 3 key pillars that we're taking about 30 years ago was ICT. And ICT, as you all know, has actually been one of the key drivers of the growth of our economy around the world. The second one was life science, another key pillar, and actually now, or these days, with everything that's going on with COVID, the importance of being able to produce vaccine. And one of our pillars in the region and under the life science sector is actually vaccine. And the third one that we picked at the time was optics and photonics, which was a key sector of expertise in the region, with some leaders in the field of telecommunication and different field of optics and photonics. And these days we call them NDT, non-destructive technology, basically, which is the capability of using lasers and being able to see if tunnels or different type of, when you look at, for example, the gas and the different system of gas, if there is leakage, I should say, and through the optics and photonics, we're able to look at the capacity and the solidity of the pipes and ensuring that the pipes are not broken and there's no leakage of gas or oil going through the pipelines. So that's the 3 key sectors. And over the years, other sectors have continued to build in the region. The key sector now is also life insurance, which is one of the strong sector of the region. Another one is what we call gaming. Another key sector that actually has grown over the last 2 decades is the gaming sector, and the agri-food sector, which is also another key pillar of our region.
So, Carl, can you share how companies have been doing during COVID-19 in Quebec so far? Because you also mentioned that tourism is one of the strengths in Quebec City before, but now because of COVID-19, that sector actually has been hit hard. So maybe you can share how the companies are doing in COVID-19 in Quebec City.
As we were saying, 2 of the key sectors that were hit very drastically were the restaurants and the hotels. So the government, as I was saying, has introduced new stimulus package to, number one, stimulate and trying to attract people and support those sectors through the COVID situation. The second element of that was also providing, and the other subsector, if I may say, that was hit very hardly here was the airports with the current situation of people not traveling. So the airports were hardly hit. So the government has also produced or introduced some package to stimulate to support the different airports around the country, because during the situation, only 4 airports in the country were kept open for international flights. So, as I said, number one, supporting the 2 sectors that were hit, the hotel, the restaurants. The other element that was also introduced by our government was what can we do to bring back the people and the community to downtown, because as we all know, people were working from home. So we also have introduced or looking at different ideas to try to bring back people back to downtown so that people will go back to restaurant, use the different stores that are located in our downtown. So that's another area that the government has now provided with stimulus package to support people and support those, I'm going to say, businesses that are located in our downtown. So on the other side, 2 elements. First of all, we noticed that some of the sectors, for example, that were hit during the first wave, we're facing one major challenge is that, for example, in the US, the US never really shut down. So companies that were competing with US companies had difficulty to adjust because during the first wave, all of the companies were shut down for a period of about 3 to 4 months. So that had an impact on them. But then in the early April, May of last year, those businesses reopened and they were never shut down after that. The other element that actually is also another one that people are looking at is the distribution channels. As we all know, a lot of the companies around the world were actually getting products from different countries, and we know that the delays have been impacted longer than they were. So a lot of the companies are relooking their distribution channels, and trying to see if they can find local partners to help them to fill this channel of distribution and also those channels of products that are coming in to produce whatever the final product is. At the end of the day, I would say that normality is back. I looked at the data on Friday again, and the unemployment rate is back to what it was prior to COVID. Most of the companies are actually doing extremely well in most of the sectors. So I would say that from one side, I could say the pandemic is behind us. But as I said, the two key sectors that were hit are still hit. And we're not expecting that the tourism sector is going to go or better until probably the summer of 2022.
How has Quebec International been supporting SMEs or the enterprise community in Quebec City?
First of all, we were able to, through the federal government over the COVID situation, we were given a specific mandate to support companies over a period of 9 months. Over that period of 9 months, we actually hired close to 10 people, and the key focus was actually helping companies to be able to go and to navigate through the different programs that the different levels of government introduced to support companies through COVID, number one. So from a Canadian perspective, there's what I would say 3 levels of government: city, province, and national, so state and federal. So we hired 10 people, and basically it was like a hotline where people could either phone or fill a request form on the internet. And then after that, we would get on contact with them and phone them and talk to them and understand what was the current situation of the company, what type of problems they were facing. And number one, we would spend about a 1 to 3 hours on average with every company, trying to get them to understand what are the different programs that they would be entitled to obtain. That was number one. Number two, if we felt that after that period of discussion with the companies, we could not fulfill entirely their requests, we would hire external expertise to help them to go through the different programs or supporting them with financial services. Or a lot of the companies were actually trying to get their model to basculate or to move to e-commerce. And a lot of the companies were not actually there yet. So we actually spent a lot of time helping companies to move to e-commerce and actually being able to sell online. So that was what we did basically over the 9 last months, was actually working with the companies, the local companies, to get access to the different programs, the different support incentive that the 3 levels of government have provided to companies. That's number one. Number two, 2 key things that actually have been driving right now. Number one, what can we do to help companies increase their productivity, introduce some new equipment, helping them to get to sell online, relooking their channels of distribution of import goods so that they could actually reduce the level of to help them to reduce the length of getting the key products or the ingredients that actually are coming into the production of their goods. The other key thing was actually also helping companies to sell online. So I would picture this as two groups of people. Those that are saying, before I learn to swim, I want to take my lessons and then I'm going to be able to swim. And other people that just decided to jump into the water and they then raise their hand and say, I'm sorry, but I don't know how to swim. I need your help because I'm selling, for example, dairy products to the US or Asia. I'm selling fish, whatever. What are the different steps? How do I send my product? What are the different things that I need to know when my product is going to go through customs and things like that? So a lot of the focus over the last year has been really helping companies to navigate through the challenges that COVID has brought to those companies. And another key area was actually helping companies to continue to attract talent, because the situation is the same that it was prior to COVID. People looking to bring in talent, people with different type of expertise, and the need, for example, of IT specialists has just increased here and around the world in terms of getting those people to come and work for companies. So the focus has also been on attracting talent and retaining the talent to stay, live, and work in the region.
Carl, Quebec itself actually has been contributing to the overall GDP of Canada and has been doing a great job. But still, you just also mentioned before that population of Quebec is around 1 million. It's a very small population, right? But still, you have been managing to contribute a lot to the overall economic advance of Canada. Maybe you can share the insight on how Quebec has been doing a great job with such a small population and how you have been able to manage, boost the innovation overall.
I think that there's number one, I think there's a few things that actually play into our advantage. Number one, Canada as a whole has signed a lot of different agreements around the world. So, for example, with the US and Mexico, with Europe, and also the Trans-Pacific Agreement, the TTP. So that, number one, gives us access to over billions of consumers around the world. So Canada and Quebec becomes an attractive place to expand, because from there you can use this as a board actually to get access to the US, to Mexico, to Asia, or to Europe. That's the first one for me. The second one is, as I said earlier, Quebecers are francophones, but we live in North America, so we kind of have a dual way of looking at things as North American, and also often as it is in Quebec as European. So we have the capability of looking at things with a different perspective. Number one, in the way that we do business and the way that we actually are, I'm going to say, living what we call in French la joie de vivre. So it's balancing the work balance with the possibility of arts, the possibility of food, restaurants, the possibility of spending time with our families and outside. And I think it's finding this right equilibrium that actually is probably the second thing that makes us very, very unique. The third one is being so small. We know that we have to be able to innovate. We need to be able to compete. And it's like in Asia, a lot of the countries, they know that competition is furious. It is a global thing. And if we're not able to continue to innovate, to be able to distinguish ourselves from competition, we're not going to survive. So I think that's the third thing. The fourth one is that people know that, as we say in French or in Canada, with a dollar, we know how to split it in different ways so that we can maximize what we can do with a dollar. So Quebecers are known to be able to innovate, create different things, and to stretch as much as we can our dollar. The other one is the combination and the closeness of our university, our education system, to be able, first of all, to educate and train the future generation of engineers or researchers, of people that are going to be working in literature, whatever it is. So the closeness of our university, the capability of our institution to be able to train and inform, but also to work together with the private sector to bring new innovation, answering needs of the business community, but also of the consumers around the world that actually is moving, that are coming up with new requests, new ways. So, for example, we know that green energy, the usage of vaccines, the usage of everything that has to do in healthcare, how we actually eat, how we actually are using cars. For example, how we move from places to another are of interest for the consumer. So being able to introduce new programs that actually are going to answer the needs of green energy. And in Quebec, we're very fortunate that 100% of our production of electricity is green, because over 97-98% of our energy is created from hydro energy, and the rest comes mainly from wind, the windmill industry. So we have a very clean energy. We've been able to produce at a very low rate, which actually helps to produce different goods and being able to sell them, knowing that everything is produced in a green way. So these for me are the most important one. And I think the last one that I would bring in is the openness of the people to welcome people from around the world that actually will bring in new ideas, new way of looking at challenges and opportunity. And the business and the people from the city of Quebec and from the country, from Canada, are open to immigration, and also open, as I said, to get people that actually come from different background, different origin, and that are going to be looking at challenges with a different eye, a different view. And I think we have to use these people to help us to reach other communities, other countries, based on their own network that they have around the world.
Carl, in some cases, people prefer to have like a top-down system where you can easily stifle the creativity and innovative mind of the people. It's not that easy to just change that. And based upon what you just said, actually in Canada, in Quebec City, I think the education, and not only in the school, but also your family level and your community level, you must have been doing something great to help people to be more innovative and creative, but not by stifling their creativity and innovative mind. Do you have any particular ways to raise the children in your community so that they are not just obedient to the former generation, just following the suit or following the orders, rather than that, actually maybe they can be more autonomous and more creative and innovative? Do you have any particular ways to educate them?
Yes, if I may, on that, I think that, I don't know if Canada was at the forefront, or Quebec, I should say, was at the forefront, but I could say that over 30 years ago, we started to introduce program to increase the female education in STEM. So trying to get more female to actually go into engineering, into everything that has to do with STEM, so engineering, maths, and computer science. I was going to say informatic, but that's more mainly saying in French, and it's a bad translation. So we've been working on that, and then we actually have created over the years what we call summer camps, where people can actually go in and actually try and being introduced to different ways of what is science. So we also have different programs that we do every year for science for women, science for girls. And that programs has been targeted to the younger generation, so people that are still in high school. The summer classes have been very successful. And I would say over the 10 last years in introducing what we call data coding through different types of programs through the summers, through the internet and different other programs. And then the other ones that actually have been introduced is finding ways to get people that actually have either lost their job, or people that are trying to relaunch their career. And actually, we have introduced a program that actually was originally launched in French, which is called École 42, so School 42, which is basically IT programs that actually are given to people so that they can learn how to code, how to do gamings or doing whatever type of services that are provided in the IT field. So I think that's like one of the key things that we have done for a long time is being able not only to ensure that people could get exposed, but people get exposed at a very young age. The second thing for me, as we also know that we have a challenge with boys, mainly for us in high school. So the second thing that actually was introduced many years ago is what we call education and sports, which is something that has been there for a long time in the US, for example. And it's finding that balance for mainly for boys that we know that they have a higher percentage of dropouts in high school for boys. So getting them into some sports program has actually been very successful in keeping boys to continue to study and to learn and be able to finish their high school. So those are the two first ones. And then the third one is we also have to think that once we start working, we have to continue to learn. So a lot of the companies have introduced lifelong programs to ensure that people will continue to study over the course of their working period. And another element is what we know, for example, in the German countries is what they call the dual program or leadership, which is a combination of people that are getting into their career and they actually have been teamed up with people that have been working in that career for many years and ensuring that these people, even if they're working in any type of companies, will continue to have not only training but support from the business community to ensure that these people can continue to learn. Because the way that we would operate a machine 10 years ago is very different than the way that we operate a machine today. And if people don't have those new skills to be able to operate this machine, there's two things that's going to happen. Either they're going to lose their job because they're not trained to operate the machine, or number two, they might use the machine and break it, and which would have tremendous impact for a company. So continue to be trained through your working career is another key element that actually is, I think, makes a big difference for companies to maintain their competitivity over the course of the company and over the course of an employee to ensure that the employee remains competitive versus people from other places around the world. And the last one is basically having the capability for people to team up with research centers of different universities, private and public. So when they're facing challenges, they can turn, and the government will provide subsidies and different types of programs to help companies to continue to innovate so that they can continue to be competitive. Because if you stop to innovate, you're going to fall back and competition is going to get in front of you. So innovate, train your employees, provide them with very good working conditions so that people are motivated to work, and that out of that you're going to get great results.
For the creativity or innovative mindset, regulation is also important, because if you have too many regulations in the country level, then actually it can stifle the people's creativity and innovative mind. So in order to avoid that happening, how the Quebec City has been handling the regulation so that it doesn't stifle the creativity and innovative mind, but also that how about the bureaucracy and red tape, because those actually also have been stifling the creativity in many countries.
I think the question that you raised and the comment that you made are actually, something that a lot of the countries are facing is how the challenge of bureaucracy and the impact that it has on the openness and the possibility of introducing new technology into the marketplace. So I'm not going to say that it's something that we're not facing. We're actually in the process of redoing our innovation strategy, and it's one of the challenges that we actually have focused on as one of the key stumbling blocks to being able to accelerate the possibility of having new ideas, new products, and new technology to get access to the market. So Having said that, one of the things that we have put in place into Quebec City to try to, I'm going to say, answer that challenge was a program that we introduced maybe 7 years ago or close to 10 years, was actually helping our companies, local companies, to be able to test their new products prior to market. So we know that one of the challenges you mentioned is that someone that comes out with a new pen cannot easily get access to the city, to the government, because they have to go through a different level of restriction and things like that. So what we said is that if someone is thinking of producing a new pen, and what they want to know is, number one, is this pen, is it going to be able to write in blue, write in black, and does it really write what we thought it would do? So we came and presented this idea to the city, and basically what the city has done is open their doors to companies to be able to test their technology prior to market, and making sure that what they had as an idea was actually going to deliver what they thought it would. So over the years, we've been able to help companies to try their technology, try their product. Number one, for a number of years, it was only possible to do it internally in the city. So what I would call the city government. Over the last 4 years, we've been able, with the city, to open the door of the program not only to the city, but now companies can try their technology, their product, with another organization. So it could be the provincial or the federal government. It could be another private company, and then the city will provide to the company a grant so that they can get access to funding to continue to accelerate their technology, and then being able to launch their technology. What we have seen over the years is that people have been able to demonstrate to then potential buyers that the pen actually works, that it does write in blue, that it does write in black, and it's provided what they're saying that it would. So that's the first thing that we did. The number two thing is, what can we do to help companies to go through the different hurdles of the different regulations that are faced. So one of them is trying, and that's what we're working right now, is finding ways to help companies, especially in the field of life science, to be able to get access to either the hospital setting. So it's a key challenge. We're still facing it, and we're trying to come up with new solution to accelerate the capabilities of our companies to be able to introduce and sell more rapidly their technology in the healthcare system. So it's still a challenge. We're trying to come up with solution, and hopefully maybe in a year I'll be able and be in a better position to provide to the group some ideas of what we can do to answer that question that's been there for many years.
In Asia, people tend to overwork themselves without the balance between work and life. I still remember that when I visited Quebec City, I've seen people that they are enjoying their life, but at the same time, they also work very productively. So I wonder how you have been able to manage that balance so far.
Well, I think I'm going to say that challenge has been bigger over the last 15 months with COVID, when people are spending their days sitting behind a screen, and people now are not traveling, but they're sitting on a chair and they're late for meetings because it's a meeting after another between Teams and Zoom. But basically, as I said earlier, Canadians and mainly, and I would say Quebecers, have this gonna say double way of looking at things from a Europe perspective and a North American, and we know that we need people to find that balance, because finding the balance can helps you to be more productive, and the balance also helps you to think and rethink at challenges outside of a working environment. So I always give the example for me. Note that the hour in the morning that I take to walk is also a good period of time for me to rethink, relook at some of the challenges, relook at some of the elements that are unresolved that I have at the office, and this possibility of taking time that I'm not overthinking or overexposed to pressure from work gives me this opportunity. And I think the other element for us that also is important is finding that balance to see friends and family, which also gives us the opportunity to, as I say, put the pressure down, go back to normal, enjoy life, and being revigorate and being able when Monday morning gets there that we're able to go back at the office and that we still take the 5-10 minutes in the morning to speak or at our colleagues and say, what have you done on the weekend? Have you gone to a good restaurant? Have you tried a new wine, a new sake? Have you been able to go see a play? Have you visited a park? Have you played any sports? So I think this is important to be able to have this equilibrium in your work and also with your family and friends.
I also remember you are one of the board members for CCCA, or Consider Canada City Alliance. The Consider Canada City Alliance unites 12 of Canada's largest municipal regions to build a sustainable and globally competitive national economy built upon the collective strength of each member's ecosystem. Can you tell us how these 12 cities have been competitive in terms of their policy directions?
Yes, well, thank you for that question. I think that number one, what we wanted to do is we wanted to ensure that we were able to increase the level of recognition that Canada could have around the world. That was number one. Number two, we said that at the end of the day, the different cities around the country, we all know that we're competing to attract talent and attract investment. But if we were not able to work together unitedly, when we actually are traveling or doing promotion outside of the country, all of us would fail. So the key thing was actually working together, and what we call is a co-petitive, so competition, but cooperation, partnership at the same time. So for me, I rather see an investment coming to Canada than going to another country. And if I'm able, through a conversation with a potential investors, that he says at the end of the day, he'd rather go to another city. Some people always, so I always remember what someone said to me. He said to me, I'd rather see an R&D facility of a Japanese company being somewhere in Canada than having to travel to Japan to meet the potential R&D experts. So I think that's number two. The third one is that if we want to bring everyone and reach and bringing up the bar between our cities, is being able to share our best practice among each other so that we all learn from one another and that we're able to learn some of the ideas that other cities have put in place to either attract, retain, and at the same time that we work as a united voice in front of our governments and in front of potential investors around the world. So basically, it's working together, having a united voice in front of the government, bringing to them some of the challenges that we're facing, and the challenges that we're facing in Quebec are the same one that they're facing in Vancouver or Toronto or other cities across the country. So by that, we're able to raise the bar and ensuring that we have a united voice in front of our government, and that they will introduce policies that are helping our communities around the country.
Carl, I think this question can be very important because we talk about the melting pot or salad bowl. In Canada also, you have many different people. I personally believe the importance of diversity and embracing diversity is very important, but it's at the same time it's very challenging. It's not confined to Canada only, it's actually relevant to other countries, let's say for example United States, and more countries actually accepting immigrations. So I know that Canada has been doing a great job in embracing the diversity, not as a melting pot, but more like a salad bowl. So it's like you're embracing the diversity, but at the same time, you're also helping to be clear about the identity and try to respect the identity. So it can be very challenging actually when you work together, not only within one country, but also with other countries.
Well, yes, it's a challenge, but I know people in Canada and people, for example, in the US, have to think that our countries have been built through immigration. We have the First Nations that actually were the original inhabitant of our countries, but the vast majority of the inhabitants of our country have come to Canada through immigration. In some case, yes, 10 where I might be the 10th generation of my own family, but we have to remember that we're people that actually have moved from another country to come and live here. So that's number one. Number two, diversity, as I said earlier, is something that we have to embrace. Diversity will bring us different ways of looking at challenges, at looking at ways that we could actually do businesses and things like that. So that's number two. Number three, most of the cities around the country have created diversity programs to ensure that there are more people that are coming from diversity that actually can get senior jobs in organization, that get access to boards of different companies. Diversity not only means people that are, I'm going to say, male and female. It's people that are coming from the LGBT community, people that are coming from different countries that are moving to Canada. And so all of that has been taken into consideration, and the country is embracing the diversity. And we also have to think that, bringing more people to country also has an impact on the stimulus of our GDP growth, because people that are moving are people that are going to buy houses, rent apartments, buy cars, goods, and things like that. And people are also exposed to food, to arts, and different ways of looking. And it's a chance for you to being home and having an opportunity to travel locally just by food, and having the chance to speak with these people and learning about, what their home country has to offer. And I think the challenge remains, because there's still a lot of people have to be able to rethink their view of diversity. It's a challenge, but I think that, in Canada, as you said, Canadians are open to diversity, and we all know what people actually have been able to bring to our community, bring to our society. And when we look at numbers, we also know that people that are immigrants to a country also have a tendency to being more entrepreneur. If you look, a lot of people will come to a country. One of the things I'm going to bring up this is that we noticed that when we went with the mayor to the US, that in the San Francisco area, we noticed that they had one or two incubators that were focusing on the agri-food sector. And we decided to create an incubator in the food sector in Quebec City for a few reasons. Number one is that we noticed that more females were actually starting food companies, because a lot of them, it was a second revenue. Number two, a lot of people that were immigrants were coming to a country, and the first thing that they wanted to do was share their food. That was one of the key things that represent their diversity, was actually the different food that their country is producing. So a lot of those females wanted to open restaurants, open a small shop, so that they could produce a local product from their own country. So number three, we found out that actually females, immigrants, and also that they needed support. They needed to be not only monitored, but being supported to be able to launch a company. So those three ingredients we put together, and we've been able to launch cohorts of about 10 companies twice a year. And when I looked at the numbers, most of the time, 7 out of 10 new entrepreneurs were actually coming out from immigration. They were launching different type of products. They actually were presenting their their products from their own country. So it's I'm going back, it's a challenge, but we have to bring to our population, to our colleagues, that, diversity opens the door to a lot of opportunities to everyone.
Carl, you have been not only the president and CEO of Quebec International, but also you have been the community leader in Quebec City. So maybe you can share your principle or philosophy of your as a leader.
Well, thanks for that question. Number one, a leader has to be able to preach by example. So, number one, I have to be able, when I ask people to do something, that I'm also capable of doing it myself. Number one. Number two, it's to continue to train and to learn, because the world is evolving. People have great ideas around the world, and if I cannot take the time and learn from ideas, from new ways of doing business and new ways of embracing and bringing people to my own community, I'm missing a lot. So that's number two. Number three, which is something I'm looking forward to being able to redo, hopefully shortly, is having the opportunity of traveling around the world and meeting people and learning and seeing how people are facing the same challenges that I have here in Quebec, and how they're addressing those challenges in their own community, and how can I take some of their ideas and bringing them back to my community, but adapting them at the end of the day to my own reality. Because we're facing challenges, but the way that we're going to resolve those challenges have to be different where we are because of the nature of our own community. So training, asking people to do things that I'm doing myself, learning from others. And number four, I would say, is keeping the relationship, the open door with our people, with my employees, having an open mind and an open communication dialogue with the community, with the people. Number five, by having that open door, that open communication, is speaking with people often, so that you're not, I'm saying, sitting in an ivory tower and you're not connected with the reality, the challenges that our community, our business community is facing, and that we're not staying where we are, but we're adapting the offers and the services that we're providing to the community have to be adapted to answer the needs of our community that are moving, changing every day because of the speed that things are moving. And I think the other element for me is not only having an open door and open communication with the people, but it's also being able to take a role, a place in the community, and also supporting organization, non-for-profit, charity organization, people that are facing challenges, people that didn't have the same chances that I had, and we are giving back to our community is something for me that's also very important, is to give back. I've been fortunate enough to be able to receive a lot, so I have to be able to give back to the community and share with them and give back to these people that are in needs. So I would say giving back is one thing that is for me very important, because as I said, some of our people have not been very fortunate. The last two elements that I think as a leader is very important, and what I say to my people, number one, is that when we commit a mistake, number one, we have to learn from that mistake and also share it with our colleagues so that we don't do the same mistakes 2 or 3 times, because if we do, then we're not very good in communicating and sharing some of the challenges that we face. So sharing the challenge, learning from it. As I said, people can make mistakes, but learn from your mistakes and make sure that you share what the mistake was, so the organization doesn't do it many times. The last one is, when I'm faced with a challenge, is being able to listen to the different views and opinion from my colleagues, most of them that are reporting to me. And I have to say that over time, people got me to view things in a different way and been able to rethink and redo things and come up with a better outcome by learning from their own view and making sure that, I'm not 100% right. So learning from them and getting their point of view is also something that helped me over the years to get answers to some of the challenges that we're facing, but was also getting the insights from my colleagues that actually can come up with a different point of view, and actually helps myself also to see a challenge differently and rethink and actually act differently so that we can face that challenge and come out bigger at the end of the day.
Do you have any closing remark for our viewers in the Asia Pacific region?
Well, I have two little things I would like. Number one, hopefully, when we're able to travel, number one, that you can come and visit our beautiful city or beautiful country. And number two, for me, I look at the list of the 21 members. I'm looking forward to be able to visit, because I have to say I have not visited all 21 members. So one day I hope to visit all of them and learn and see not only what the cities, the countries has to offer from, I'm going to say, from a tourism perspective, but also take the time and learn what you have in your different countries and learn from what you're doing from a business point of view, and bring back some of those ideas to my own community and become, at the end of the day, a better business, a better leader by learning from what you have to provide and to teach me. Thank you. Domo arigato.
Carl, thank you very much for your valuable time again, and thank you very much for watching our P-Talk viewers. So please subscribe to our channel and don't miss out on a lot, because we are going to bring in the more innovative and also the insightful ideas to you. Okay, thank you very much for watching us. Stay safe and stay well.